We have 7 nominees on the agenda today, and each has been listed for the first time and will be held over. They are Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson, nominated to be the Associate Justice on the U.S. Supreme Court, Judge Stephanie Davis, nominated to the Sixth Circuit, Ariana Freeman, nominated to the Third Circuit, Robert Huey, nominated to the Southern District of California, Evelyn Padden, nominated to the District of New Jersey, Jennifer Reardon, nominated to the Southern District of New York, and Vanessa Avery, nominated to be U.S. Attorney for the District of Connecticut. Last week, the committee spent more than 30 hours over 4 days considering Judge Jackson's nomination. I described it as a trial by ordeal for the nominee, and I believe it was nothing less. I came away personally very impressed. It's clear why she has been reported out of this committee 3 times before with bipartisan support. We saw her qualifications and broad legal experience, her devotion to her family, her country, and the rule of law. We saw her commitment to liberty, justice, and the Constitution, a Constitution that should work for all Americans. And then there is the issue of temperament. The majority of members on both sides, the majority, were fair and respectful. Unfortunately, in the words of one Republican member of the committee, there were examples of a word I had not heard before, quote, jackassery, close quote, and playing to the social media and the cameras. But in the face of gross distortions of her record and repeated false attacks on her motives, Judge Jackson showed rock-steady grace and poise. She was, in short, a model for judicial temperament, a virtue which all of us in public life should aspire to. I want to briefly address 2 or 3 of the claims made by her opposition last week. First, a number of my Republican colleagues suggested she just doesn't have a judicial philosophy. Well, respectfully, that's just not true. But to find that philosophy, it's not going to be a declaration of a label. You have to take the time to read any or all of the 578 written opinions which she'd issued, and 12,000 pages of committee testimony before the Sentencing Committee. My Republican colleagues should keep in mind that they have supported many of President Trump's nominees who also declined labels when it came to judicial philosophies. Judge Jackson's philosophy may not be described by a catchword, but it reflects the real, proper role of a judge in America. Listen to the parties, approach each case without favoritism, set aside your personal view, apply the law to the facts. Second, some Republicans suggested that Judge Jackson is just not acceptable in any way because she won't weigh in on the issue of packing the court. Senator McConnell said exactly that on the floor last Thursday. Came to the floor and said, I just can't consider her. The first thing he said, she wouldn't answer that question. I would recommend that Senator McConnell go back and take a look at the record on Amy Coney Barrett, the justice on the Supreme Court. She was asked the same question. She said, I will not opine on that matter. Virtually the same answer that's been given by Judge Jackson. Finally, multiple Republicans accused her of being soft on crime. This baseless charge took multiple forms, none more vile than the outright falsehood that she let child pornography offenders off the hook. As an independent facts checker and former federal judge have attested, Judge Jackson's record is well within the mainstream of 70 to 80% of federal court judges. Even a conservative former federal prosecutor in the National Review dismissed many of the attacks as, quote, meritless to the point of demagoguery. Some members of this committee used the entirety of their question time, all 50 minutes, to focus exclusively on child pornography cases. Now, this may play well to the QAnon crowd and the fringe conspiracy theories who helped drive the insurrection on January 6, 2021, but the American public sees it for what it is. I want to make a point, though, of saying clearly and unequivocally, not all committee Republicans treated Judge Jackson unfairly. The majority, starting with the ranking member, the majority of Republicans approached this hearing as one would only expect, asking tough but fair questions of the nominee to the highest court in the land. I thank the members on the Republican side as well as the Democratic side for being constructive and respectful for the most part, and for showing the American people that there can still be decency at the highest levels of our government. I hope all senators from both sides of the aisle can learn from the good example of the senators who were fair. Given that we all that we heard, it's no surprise that Judge Jackson enjoys broad and deep support, including from law enforcement, organizations, conservative lawyers, and judges. These voices across the political and ideological spectrum know that, as we know, Judge Jackson embodies all the qualities one expects to be appointed to the highest court in the land. I will speak more on Judge Jackson, of course, next week markup when we hopefully vote her out of the committee. But in the meantime, I want to quote with a statement from her opening statement, which struck me. She referred to the first African-American woman to serve as a federal judge, Judge Constance Baker Motley. Judge Jackson said, and I quote, "Like Judge Motley, I've dedicated my career to ensuring that the words engraved on the front of the Supreme Court building, equal justice under the law, are a reality and not just an ideal. I can think of no more important quality in a Supreme Court nomination than the dedication to equal justice. Judge Jackson shows precisely why such definition fits her, and I hope that it is demonstrated in the committee's meeting next week.